That ceremony held at the site of the music festival was just the first of several that are being held across Israel today. Tell us about that.
That's right. Very moving ceremonies, full of sorrow as the grief of October the 7th resurfaces for Israelis, particularly at that Re'im site. They played the last song, the last music that was heard before the barrage of rockets came in. And after them, the Palestinian gunmen who killed more than 300 young people who were at that music festival. There are also ceremonies being held across Israel, limited in size because there's a threat of attacks and bomb rocket attacks from many, from the south. We did actually see some Hamas rocket fire coming in from the north. So groups of no more than 1,000 all over Israel, including here in Jerusalem earlier this morning. That was outside the Prime Minister's residence, not far from here. So you see a massive outpouring of grief. And what's really noticeable about this is it's not being organised by the state. These are not state-sponsored events. Anything that happens from a minute's silence to all these ceremonies is organised by people themselves. That is, people who were held hostage and have been returned from the Gaza Strip, people who still have relatives being held hostage in the Gaza Strip, people whose family members were killed that day, people who were injured themselves that day but managed to escape with their lives. Ordinary civilians for whom all of this is a living issue. In fact, I would say, there is no post-trauma here. It's still really, Israel is in the trauma of October the 7th. And I think that's partly because there are still 100 hostages being held inside the Gaza Strip. Israel's Prime Minister estimates that 50 of them are dead, but that means that could be as many as 50 still alive. And until they come home, I don't think Israel will start processing this trauma.
Absolutely. And Irris, we're going to come back to you in just a moment, but first we're going to listen to the daughter of one of the hostages who was killed.
I would like to promise all 101 hostages, on behalf of all of us, all the people of Israel, that we won't stop fighting. We won't stop making their voices heard. We won't stop fighting for the most basic thing, that they come back safely as soon as possible.
Irris, as you were saying, the weight of these hostages still being held in Gaza is still weighing very heavily on the minds of many Israelis, not just today, but throughout the year. Tell us a bit more about the impact of that still 1 year on.
It is extraordinary when you think of all the events that have happened. Nevertheless, the trauma of that first day is so strong here. I feel personally as a journalist that what I have been doing is marking two sides, sorrow on both sides of such depth, two sides bringing each other to their lowest point ever in all the years that I've been covering this conflict. And last night I watched one of the Israeli TV channels that had a moment-by-moment, a ticker going at the bottom of the screen with every minute from 6:30 when the first rockets came across and the gunman not long after. And, I was here. I've been covering this story every day since then, but I was so busy on that day that I haven't gone back. And it was extraordinary to watch and to realise that people were calling into TV stations because they weren't getting any joy when they called either the military or the police. And you see them calling the TV stations because they know a journalist there and they say something like, please, we think we're surrounded. Now they're in our homes. Then they start whispering. Now they're definitely in our homes and they're armed and they're starting to burn this place and we don't know if it's safe to jump out the window. And that's, a public exchange on television. And that's from 8 a.m. in the morning. And there wasn't any real rescue for many of them till that evening. So they had to endure by themselves, unarmed as best they could. Many killed, as we know, and many taken hostage. So I think all of that is very live for Israelis. And really, I do feel that there won't be a reckoning. By the way, there hasn't been a national reckoning. There hasn't been a commission of inquiry, no state inquiry set up even. The same government is still in office. The same government that hasn't really accepted responsibility or its part. Very happy to blame the military and the intelligence services, not taking responsibility as politicians for what they oversaw. So all of this together means that Israel is still, I think, damaged from that day.
Irris, thank you for that. Irris Makler there in Jerusalem.